So as an experiment, I wanted to try to build out a side project without touching Claude Code, without touching Cursor, and instead just primarily use Automaker. This is a project that me and my Discord have been working on, which we just recently reached 2,000 stars. So go give us a like, give us a star to help see us grow. But this is a fully autonomous Kanban board that allows you to basically define your tasks, pull them over to in progress. You can change what model you want to actually be invoked when these things are trying to be turned out. And I found this to be quite useful, especially if you have multiple projects. So over here on the left, we have the ability to switch projects. Right here, I have the thumbnail crafter side project I'm kind of playing around with to see how well it does with just fully using Automaker. But then I also have a bunch of other projects that I can switch to. For example, I have the Automaker marketing site. I have the Agentic Jumpstart site, which I could probably add in here. In fact, I'll just go over here and add it in. Let's go to my workspace. Let's just find the Agentic Jumpstart course that I have. And then we can go ahead and edit this to, an icon for right now, but I do have the ability to upload images. So anyway, this is basically how I've been doing a lot of coding on my side projects. I just find it easier if I have a little idea or a bug fix that I need to add in. I'll quickly just go to, for example, Agentic Jumpstart. I'll create a new feature card. I'll select a model. Maybe I want to do a plan mode. So I'll go ahead and just say, hey, you know what? Let's go to Opus and I'm going to go and do a plan mode, which will go and first create the plan and then I'll implement it when I kick this off. You can also have this work in work trees as well. That's a feature that we added into Automaker up here. You can turn on your work tree bar, and then you can actually assign these features to be worked on inside of work trees, which will spin up a work tree in your local project. And then later on, you can commit that directly to, create a PR from that work tree if you want to. We have a bunch of GitHub integration right here. So you can create a pull request. You can open this directly in Cursor if you want to. If you wanted to actually dive into using an IDE again to do the agentic coding, which is of course something I still do on serious projects and project at work. I still use the IDE because I do want to know what the code is doing. I don't just blindly ship code. But for some of my side projects, it's fun to just vibe code it and add in the features. So let me give you a quick teaser how Automaker works. We have a lot of features. I'm not going to cover all of them, but I have a thumbnail crafter editor that I'm kind of working on. So basically it's like a low budget Figma that allows me to create thumbnails, and then I can easily pull up templates from my previous thumbnails on YouTube and then quickly insert headshot images. I'm going to integrate this with Fala AI to remove backgrounds from images and stuff. Just one centralized place I can manage all my thumbnails so that I don't just use the default YouTube thumbnail for all of my videos. It's kind of low effort. My channel's low effort, but I want to try to increase the quality somewhat by having some custom thumbnails. I've been using Figma to do it, but I think building a custom tool could be useful for myself, but also maybe I can turn this into a SaaS product. But one thing that we have here is if I were to try to add in this image, notice that it gets kind of locked to the top. So I'm going to see if I can use Automaker to fix this. We're going to go to Automaker over here. I'm going to create a new task, and I am selected on the thumbnail crafter project. So let's make a new Kanban task. There's a strange bug. When I add an image to my canvas inside the editor, it seems like the image gets locked to the top of the canvas. Can you reevaluate how we're doing the canvas and see if there's maybe some logic that's preventing the images from being properly dragged around, or if there's some locking that's going on? It just cannot, the top of the image gets locked to the top of the canvas. Okay, so we're going to try to debug this. And again, we can use different models. So I could potentially kick off an Opus model with this. We could try using GPT 5.2. I think 5.2 Codex just came out. I think we need to add that to our list of models. I'm not sure why it's not showing up for us. But we're going to go ahead and kick this one off. And I will just go ahead and click Add Feature. And that's going to put it in our backlog. We're going to automatically generate a title for this, Fixing Image Locking Bug on Canvas. And then I can drag it over, or I can just click the Make button. And then that's going to kick off an agent to actually start doing this work. So again, this is using the Cursor CLI for GPT 5.2. We also have Codex CLI integration. We have Claude Code CLI integration. We have Open Code CLI integration. So those are the four main things that we have for kicking off these agentic workflows, but we do plan to add more in the future. A lot of people keep on asking for GLM integration and stuff, which I do think you can get set up with Open Code. So that's an option as well. But you can see here, this is kicking off a task and trying to debug what might be going on with our project, for why these images basically, they seem like they get stuck. I can't drag them past a certain point. So as this is running, let's go ahead and demo out a couple of features with Automaker, which I do think is cool to talk about. So with this thumbnail crafter project, I actually did not think of the features that you're seeing right here. All of these features Automaker basically generated for us, and I let it cook overnight, and it basically just worked on these features one by one. It does do a test-driven development approach. So it's going to create the feature and then use Playwright to verify the feature works. And then it'll move the features automatically to this verified column over here. So if I load up my archived cards, you'll see that these are all the features that Automaker basically added for me. and I didn't have to plan any of this stuff out. And so what do I mean that Automaker planned these things out for me? When you create a new project in Automaker or you open up an existing one, you have two different ways to ideate, right? The first one is the spec editor, which you can actually describe what your project's doing, what tech stack it's doing, and what things you want to have added in as far as features. So in our case, when I created this thumbnail crafter project, it was a blank project from a template. And then I said, you know what, I want to build an editor, kind of like Figma, where I can design and edit thumbnails and export them. Down here in Automaker, I clicked on this 100 and I clicked on regenerate spec. And that's going to basically create, 100 different features for me. In fact, I think it created like 135. So it kind of went off the rails and just added a bunch of features to my backlog. And then I clicked on this auto mode button, which is hidden behind my head. And when you click this, you can specify how many agents you want to run concurrently. Typically, I start off with one, but slowly I'll raise it up to 2 or 3. And then I just let this run overnight. So I basically just kicked it off. I came back in the morning, it finished like 50 features. And then I went out shopping, or I went out, started doing my day job, and I kicked this off in the background as well. And so eventually I got through all 135 features. And then coming back through, I had this entire UI created for me. I have the ability to change the background colors. I have the ability to drag these things around. You can rotate this stuff too. I can scale this up, scale it down. I can rotate it. Again, I didn't even plan this stuff out. This is just automatically added in. You could snap to the grid like this. So a lot of really cool features. You can export the entire thumbnail image. I can upload these directly to S3. So if I click on, I'll click on this logo over here. We now have 2 images that get added directly into our project. And then in the future, if I wanted to create a new thumbnail with like a React icon or like a Next.js icon or Tanstack Start icon, I already have those in my collection. So I can quickly churn out thumbnails without having to like worry about managing my assets, right? So pretty cool stuff. Now, some other features we have is ideation. So let's say you're opening up an existing project. You already have a lot of features. You can actually create new ideas for you to add in. So for example, if I want to get some additional missing features that maybe my project needs, I can click off an ideation task, and that's going to go and traverse your code base to try to figure out what you have implemented right now and what it recommends you could probably implement for the project that you are trying to build out. I think this does use a spec editor, so it's going to use the information described here to help guide what new features it could probably suggest to you. But if you go back, you see we have a bunch of different categories. We have performance suggestions that'll dive through your code base and try to suggest how you can make your application a little bit more performant. Let's go and view the ideas that just finished. So now we have a bunch of different ideas. We have custom fonts. We have the ability to element copy paste between thumbnails, canvas zoom to fit selection. So a bunch of cool features that it's thinking up for me. And then I can quickly just add all these to my backlog. Let's go back to my Kanban board, and now they're on my Kanban board. I can change the model and drag them into in progress to have it start working on these. Now, some other cool features we have, let's say you're still kind of, addicted to your terminal and using Claude Code. We do have a terminal over here. So if I do go to this terminal setting, load up a new terminal, I can change the default. I want this to load Claude Danger, which I'll hide my head real quick. These are the defaults of the setting. And then now when I split a new terminal, we will automatically have Claude Code load up for us, right? So we can then start prompting directly inside these terminals if that's the way you like the code. Okay, so now I can actually kick off different things in Claude Code, or if you want to use Codex or whatever CLI tool that you want, this is directly baked into Automaker as well. I don't really use it that much. I think if you have to use the terminal, then Automaker is not doing, its intended approach, which is to make managing and building features on these projects a little bit easier. We have a graph view. I'm not going to dive into that because it's kind of hiding a bunch of the features that I've implemented. I need to fix a little bug there. But basically, if you want a dependency graph view of what you're building out, this is how you can do it. We also have agent runners. So if you just want to have a little chat session with an agent, you can go ahead and kick off with whatever model that you want. Like maybe we could do Composer 1. What is the database ORM we're using? And then I'll go ahead and kick this one off. And that's going to kick off Composer using the cursor CLI to answer my question. And hopefully that comes back pretty quick. Okay, so now it's giving us some information about how it all kind of works. We have a locally running Postgres database inside of Docker, and then we can archive this and go back and just delete all of our sessions if we don't want those anymore. Now, in terms of the Kanban board, when you kick off features, we have 2 things that are automatically attached in for context. We have this context management system where you can create or upload MD files, you can upload images, and we have a description so that when the agents run, it'll look through all the descriptions that you have and try to figure out if it needs to dive in to these context files. So it kind of uses progressive disclosure to figure out what context files should be attached to your prompt when you're prompting. And then we also have a memory system. So when it's implementing things and it runs into issues or tries to debugs, we have a gotchas file. So it kind of documents the gotchas that it ran into so that it maybe in the future won't run into those again. We have some memory files for tracking how we're doing databases, how we're doing authentication, just so that it doesn't have to dive into your project and try to figure out how stuff is set up every single time. So this is a new approach we added in. We still have to test around with this and see how well it's working, but we're trying to add in, some additional niceties to Automaker to make it a really fully feature-rich application you can use to start building out your applications. Now, at any point, if you want to kind of modify the settings of this, you can go down to the bottom. We have a settings page, which has literally tons of settings. You can change the appearance. You can change how the terminal works, keyboard shortcuts. You can set up API keys. You can change the default models for all of the features and all the models here. So, whenever you're doing ideation or you're trying to create a new project, you can go and change what your defaults are, depending on what your favorite models are. And then, of course, we have support for MCP server. So if you want to go and add like context 7, you can actually add that right here. You just paste in your JSON, and then context 7 would automatically be included with all of these agents, okay? Now, I will say this is still a work in progress, right? Although we've been working on this for a while and we have over 100,000 lines of code now and 1,630 commits, this is still like a prototype in my opinion. So if you do have feedback, join the Discord, let us know. Go to Automaker.app. You can find a link to the Discord. I think there's also a link somewhere in this. Yeah, there's a Discord link down here. So if you want to try this out and give us feedback, feel free to. We would definitely appreciate your feedback. The one thing I would recommend saying though is don't just open up a pull request that has like 150 file changes. A lot of people keep opening these giant pull requests with tons and tons of changes without even joining the Discord and asking like, hey, can I add this feature in? They kind of just do stuff. And I've been having to close a lot of pull requests because I'm not going to review a huge pull request like that. So keep that in mind. If you do want to contribute, join the Discord first, reach out to a core maintainer and ask if there's something cool that you could add in, because it might go against our core vision, right? I know it's open source, but again, I'm building this kind of for myself, and you guys can tag along and use it if you want to, but that's kind of the approach I'm taking. So if you guys like this video, go check out Automaker, Automaker.app, and I will have the link to the Discord below. Now, the last thing I'll mention is that this entire application was built using agentic coding. So we are constantly using Cursor and Claude Code to build out features. And if you want a better understanding of what agentic coding is and how to get really proficient at it, go check out Jumpstart.com. This is my course. I have 82 videos with 12.5 hours of content teaching Claude Code and Cursor and all the techniques I've learned along the way with how to prompt better, how to add better context. And then also at the very end, we build out a full stack web application where I used Handstack Start, we use Drizzle, and we get this all deployed out to Railway. And then of course, as time goes on, AI is evolving. I'm adding more content over, the months so that you guys can stay on top of the changes that are happening in this industry. So if you guys are interested, go check out agenticjumpstart.com, go check out Automaker. Other than that, have a good day and happy coding.